Alright, hey guys, how's it going? It's Boxing Master here, and yeah, once again, it's been a while, I suppose. Yeah, I don't really know how to, start this video. I guess I'll just start it with explaining, just explaining why I haven't made videos the past couple days, or weeks or months even, however long it's been. The main reason for that is because I've just been busy a lot recently. I actually started a new job not too long ago, and I've been busy ever since, especially with my hours. I just haven't had much time to, do or make these videos and stuff like that. So yeah, that's sort of why I haven't been making videos since the whole Ngannou and Joshua fight happened. But so yeah, I just thought I'd explain that. But anyway, let's get into this fight. So, Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk is going down this Saturday, so tomorrow, and we are finally getting a undisputed champion, hopefully, unless it's a draw or no contest, we'll see. But I think what's most likely going to happen, there's going to be a winner, and it's between Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk. And look, I'm going to be honest, recently I haven't been really hyped about this fight. Not because it's a bad fight or anything. It's not a bad fight. It's actually a really good fight when you look at it, because they're both world champions, both undefeated, right? I mean, it is on paper one of the best fights you could ask for in boxing right now, right? And it seems like boxing is actually doing quite well recently. Crawford versus Spence, Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney, now Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk. There's talks about Canelo fighting Benavidez. The sport is actually doing pretty well from what it was doing a couple years ago in terms of, we're actually getting these big fights now. And who knows, maybe we'll even get Joshua versus Wilder one of these days. I mean, I know the hype for that fight has sort of died down a bit just because both of them have losses and what have you, and Wilder's not been looking the best recently, but, or he hasn't been, racking up too many wins recently. But anyway, that being said, though, this is probably one of the biggest fights in boxing, if not the biggest fight in boxing right now. And, yeah, it's a good one. So let's talk about it. So Oleksandr Usyk, Tyson Fury, right? It's a good fight. Oh, yeah, I'll explain why I'm not hyped. So, I'm not hyped for it, but the reason I haven't been as hyped for it as I normally would be is mainly because, like I said, I just haven't had much time to look into this fight too much, and, or motivation to an extent. And I think the motivation comes from the fact that I really wanted Anthony Joshua to become, or to be the guy who would have won undisputed world championship, just win all the belts. That was that was the whole story, I thought he would have. Was the, him becoming an undisputed champion, him beating guys, winning the belts against Charles Martin, Joseph Parker, Vladimir Klitschko, losing his belts but getting them back against Rees, losing his belts but then getting them back against Usyk, which obviously didn't end up happening. He lost to Usyk not once but twice. But, I wanted him to be the guy who, got all the belts, if that makes sense, right? But it's not the worst thing in the world, right? And, it's just sort of like a nitpicky complaint. It's not really a big deal. But I'm just saying that it would have been cool for him to be the first guy. Because, I'm an AJ fan, right? So that's the fanboy in me, Alright, sorry guys, I had to pause the video for a second just because one of my neighbors was, freaking making a lot of racket. But anyway, that being said, let's get back into the discussion with Usyk and Joshua. So, let's, that being said, this is still a good fight, so I'm not complaining too much, but let's look at both these guys' records. So we're going to go through Usyk's record, or Usyk's last couple fights at heavyweight, just because, I'm not really going to base it off his cruiserweight fights, because there wouldn't be much point in that. And with Fury, we'll go with his past, fights, since he's made his, epic comeback, if you will, right, in boxing. So that being said, we'll talk about both guys. So let's start with Usyk. Okay, so Usyk, his first fight, his debut fight at heavyweight was against Chaz Witherspoon. Pretty good win. I mean, it was a decent fight. It wasn't, I think a lot of people expected more, or expected him it to be as tough as it was. Not that it was super tough or anything, but just that, Chaz Witherspoon did land a couple good shots in that fight, and it wasn't like so impressive by Usyk. Yeah, I mean, look, if AJ or Wilder fought Witherspoon, I mean, they would have knocked Witherspoon out within probably the first round, and that's but I mean, that's because of a power thing, right? So the fight was decent, didn't really show too much. It was a short notice fight. This guy was like a worker at like a gas station or something, so it wasn't like, oh, he beat a world champion or he beat a top contender kind of thing. So it was a good win regardless, just because he got it done. But it wasn't, I don't know, it's just kind of one of those whatever fights, right? That being said, his fight after that was against Derek Chisora, and that was a pretty good win for him. It was a pretty competitive fight. The only one of the main reasons why it was competitive though was because Chisora was doing a lot of dirty fighting in that fight. He was holding Usyk constantly throughout the fight. He was hitting him as he was holding him, which obviously you can't do. It's, Tyson Fury's done this in the past as well, though, against other fighters. So, and I don't personally like it when fighters do that, because it's, it takes away from the sweet science of boxing, right? So that's that. But either way, it was still relatively competitive in the first few rounds anyway. But then Usyk started to dominate after that, and I didn't think Chisora really won. I thought it went to Usyk. I mean, I didn't score the fight, I don't think, but it looked like Usyk pretty much won the fight, so that's that. So decent win as well, I guess. Then he goes to fight AJ in the first fight. That was probably the most impressive win of his career, or one of them anyway, where he goes and just, completely outboxes. Or not completely outboxes, but in certain rounds he completely outboxes AJ. And the thing is, a lot of people say that, oh, it was such a domination, right? But I've said this before, it wasn't that lopsided. In fact, it was actually quite competitive at times, that fight, So, yeah, I mean, I thought it was, if anything, I thought you could you could even make a case for a draw, to be honest, right? If you really go and count the number of punches landed and the effect of the punches, all that stuff. And even Usyk himself said it wasn't an easy fight. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, I think it was, it was tougher than what a lot of people say it was, right? So, that being said, AJ and Usyk, they have a rematch after that, and then Usyk wins again. I didn't think AJ won the first. I mean, at first I thought AJ won the second fight. Excuse me. But then I started to score it, more over the days or weeks or months or whatever. And I thought, I was AJ probably lost that fight, but he still showed he had a better fight than last time, just because he took. I don't know if he took less damage, but he showed that he he could. It wasn't as lopsided necessarily, because AJ did actually stun him a few times in that round, in that fight. So it was a better performance by AJ. It was probably Usyk's toughest fight at heavyweight. So it was, but yet again, despite Usyk being stunned a few times in the fight, he was able to adapt and start to outwork AJ in the later rounds. But good fight by both, and it was relatively competitive. So that's that. So he beat AJ back to back. Then he goes to fight Daniel Dubois. Very controversial fight. A lot of people thought Dubois should have won. Look, on an unbiased standpoint, I do think that Dubois probably should have won as well. But I also do think that, if that's the case, then AJ should have also not because there was a similar shot that AJ landed against Usyk in the second fight, and no one said anything about it, right? It was just, the focus was just on the Dubois punch, right, or in that fight, but no one talked about the AJ fight and how that something similar happened, where the ref called timeout when if Dubois should have knocked out Usyk, then AJ should have not had the ref call timeout, and he should have probably won that round, to be honest. right? And that could have changed the fight. You never know, right? Or it certainly would have helped AJ in the fight to an extent, So I'm just saying that's like it's still a win for Usyk because it's still official, but yeah, I can see why it's like it's I don't know, it's very like iffy when it comes to like being on the belt line and not on the belt line, all that stuff, but it is what it is, right? So I think the last fight that Dubois was in was the one, or excuse me, that Usyk was in, was one that was not competitive, because I mean, Usyk. I mean, people say that Dubois did better than AJ. No, he didn't. Like, despite that one shot he landed, like AJ did much better than Dubois, right? So anyway, that being said, though, AJ goes ahead, or excuse me, Usyk goes ahead, excuse me, and beats Oleksandr Usyk, right? So, or excuse me, goes and beats Daniel Dubois. So that being said, it's he was able, like just like in the second AJ fight, he was able to adapt or figure Dubois out and start to beat him, right? And then he won by stoppage this time around. So that's that.